Hey there, I'm CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. Across the Red River is beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. And yeah, this is a an observation on trend, right? So let's see. About 5, 6 or so years ago, whatever, uh, right around the time it had to be, it was 19 going into 20. It coincided with COVID. I don't know what that says, but we had a 1980s. We were geared up for that retro nostalgia thing, the 80s styles and everything. It never quite really came back the way that it should have. If you really go back and look at some 1980s, we were freaking awesome. The fashions looked better in that time, and everything. It was awesome. So I still emulate that, a lot of that, in my life today, uh, in the year 2025. But for those of you who are like not keen on the 1980s, I don't know. They're whatever. Have no fear because I'm looking at what's trending. And this is very par for the course. Sometimes everything's like really fresh and what's now and new and everything. And then we have that, in between those phases, we have the retrospective, homages that are happening, and we're about to get, and you're hearing it here first, unless you've already heard it. But I don't know. I haven't heard it. This is my observation. We're about to get some retrospective in the styles, sounds, and happenings of the very early 1990s. 1990 is the well, the I turned 17 in 1990. I think, I don't know, 1989 or 1990. I don't know. I think I was. I think I was. I think I don't know. I have to come back and do the math. I should have thought about that before doing this video, but either way, I was. Yeah, I was on the edge of 17. I'll tell you that much. There you go. I worked it in. Okay, so for you Stevie Nicks fans, and I'm one. Okay, and in Louisiana, that's basically your coming of age. You're there. Like you're not old. You're not legally old enough to do anything except for sign up for the military. Uh, and then they take you when you turn 18. And I signed up for the military. I didn't know what to do. The only thing I knew was that high school wasn't working out, and living with I'd been living with my mom up to that point. My mom was a very devout, uh, fundamental Baptist. She worked on Sundays. Otherwise, she would have been at that church. Uh, like she's that. Uh, and it really wasn't working out. And yeah, so I don't know. High school, I was having like trouble adjusting to high school. I already was like underperforming. I like to think of myself as pretty intelligent. Um, what I have in knowledge and life experience does not come from a lot of success. It comes from a lot of mistakes in basically not having my own sense of standing up for myself. At this point, I knew what I was about. I knew everything about myself. I did not know how to communicate it with other people. If you think I'm talking about sexuality, Me being, I'm not. That is the least of it. That was a big part of it. That was a big part of it, but it's really the least of the controversy. It was more like, I don't know. Uh, Me just trying to figure things out. I wanted to be an artist, a writer, or whatever, and so the answer was uh, being nudged into uh, vocational education. For some reason, graphic arts as a well, what has to happen in graphic arts if you're going to be a graphic artist, and we all have these. It's computerized. There are a lot of things are computerized now. Back then, we were just starting to get some of that, uh, and so by the time I got around, it was 1990, and I was going to the vocational rehab, and I was taking some classes in. I was 17, taking classes at the vocational college, but I'd never really been properly socialized. I'd been protected my entire life at home. And then the one exception to that was when I was in my teen years. I could run off with some friends, and we went and we spent like every weekend that we could at Caddo Lake every weekend. And the reins were let loose, and I was allowed to run free. But it was at that lake, and so. But anyway, yeah. I don't know. It's like I wanted to do something, you know, that was artistic and it was me, but I felt maybe obliged to take a course that was, I don't know, shorter in duration, so I could be less of a burden uh, to the parent, my father, who I went to live with, who also had my sister and her newborn baby. And at this, all I remember thinking at this point was, I'm just at this point kind of being, you know, trouble for everybody. Just a kind of a not that they didn't love me or whatever, but just a burden or whatever while I was trying to figure things out. And I'm pretty sure, and I know now, my parents, if my mother were alive, and then my dad, they would say, it was a challenge, but no, it was never, uh, something that they wouldn't want to do, whatever. But I don't know. It's You have to understand. Up until this point, it was like I was going through this being. Uh, I had like issues with stability. We'd moved so often, and then my parents were together, and then they were not together, and then my sister went to live with my dad, and then my sister came back, and then my dad came back later, and then a couple of years later, my sister moved out, and then my parents split up again, and even though they were divorced, it's like they pretty much wherever they moved, they lived in the same neighborhood. It's basically they were living in the it was so weird. It was so weird dynamics. And you go through and you figure things out. And the biggest problem that my parents and my family and everything, that was all about communication. We didn't know how to communicate efficiently. We didn't really know how to listen to each other. We always made uh, you know, more of some things than what it was. And I love my family, love my family. I wish that communication would have been a bigger part of things, even if my parents weren't to, because my parents they did get divorced, and every once in a while they would look in each other's direction uh, and try to reconcile, but it never lasted very long. And then my dad's been with someone that he's been with now uh, almost 30 years, and I wouldn't trade that stability or happiness for him for anything. So that's not what this is. That's not what this whole thing is about. This is just like me talking about the 90s. So yeah, and so this is me coming of age in the 90s. and not doing well at this technical process. I've never had a screwdriver, a hammer. I'd never had any sort of mechanical tool in my hand, really. Uh, I'd never so much as turned a Phillips head uh, by this point. I don't know why. I don't know why. I think every once in a while I'd go with my dad on a job as a teenager, but my job was to observe and every once in a while hand him something. Uh, there was this set of channel locks that I used to like to play with as a toy, you know. But it's because I thought that they looked like long legs, and I thought they looked like they were legs that were walking. So I used to like to make them pretend to walk. But that's really about it. You know, I didn't have like I don't know, uh, I don't know. And it's very mechanical at this point to take an image, line it up precisely, and if you have any sort of paranoia about imperfection, there's no room for this at all. Um, to take this image and all these different processes, it's not like you take this image and you put it on a, it's a great big giant, and I'm like, what is this? Why are we're making images, papers, pages, books that are going to go and they're going to be bound, but for leaflets and things like that, and that's lovely, but everything had to be so perfect, especially when you get into printing color, photo color and everything like that, because you do this with red, white, and blue ink and toners here, there, and everything. And what happens is that if there's the slightest bit of imperfection, you a speck of dust will ruin it. You will ruin everything. Um, as I was working on the 1250 press one day, uh, there's this big, huge where you take it and you turn the wheel and everything. You everything's manual here, and it's like, but it's manual, but it gets a momentum. A lady working on a similar press on the other side of me saw a piece of dust, and as she was trying to turn it, she reached over and tried to pick off the dust, and in so doing so smashed and bloodied up her finger. I don't know what happened after that. All I know is that I couldn't. We see what happens. If something happens to me, that if something gets injured or someone gets really injured, then I sort of like, vacate and go on autopilot. And that's sort of what happened with my, and I did, that's kind of like looked down and I finished the print job that I was working on. But so I liked the idea of working in the print shop, but I realized, I think at that moment, I'd never really seen like that kind of physical, I'll tell you this. There are some times when I saw an injury. When I was in second grade, there was this little girl named Sunshine, and I saw her hand get caught in a big, heavy shutting, those big metal doors in schools. Well, one shut on her hand, and it made her hand, and I was so like, oh my God, blood was everywhere. I was like, oh my God. And so that freaked me out. So sometime a year and a half or so later, we're in my grandmother's car. My mother's in the front seat, and the car sort of closes on her hand. Nothing happened. She's fine. But here I am in third grade, just basically freaking out as if, bloody murder or something like that, because I felt like my mother got hurt or whatever. Because I saw a door slam on this little girl's hand. And yeah. Ugh. By the way, she came out fine. By the way, Sunshine. Just it was just horrific to see. Uh, and these are things. These are like little bitty things that uh, you know, children. Some children can be a little bit more sensitive about things. I always was. My feelings really easily would get hurt as a small child or whatever. So, but anyway, so I'm not really doing well at this uh, vocational school. And then I have like some older influences and not the greatest, but they're all like, well, we could just go up the street and buy like a 6 pack of beer and blow off class or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. I just kind of like bond and it's like, I don't know. It's just, I didn't have, I didn't know, I knew so much about myself, but I didn't know everything about myself. Uh, and This was just, I don't know. This was a new experience because, like, this was like the first time in this vocational school that I felt like I'm there, but I'm also being treated as uh, uh, kind of an adultish peer. Uh, but the fact of the matter is, I had been so guarded in some ways up until that point in my life that I was, and I say that because I went through the 80s mostly, except for the times when my sister and I lived together. But there were times when we didn't live together. I lived by myself, and it was because my mother worked, and she worked from like I'd go to school at like go catch the bus at like 5:45, whatever, and then come home, and then she'd be working, and so there really was no one, for me to spend any sort of time or talk or relate to or whatever. And that was a big part of my time at home. So that, yeah, uh, I don't know. It's just I was kind of ill prepared, And then, of course, uh, living with my dad. My dad was more permissive, and I started dating, and I don't know if it was like. Uh, Yeah, I don't know. It's like uh, I did sort of date throughout but it was always like safety, like maybe go. It was more like hanging out, see you at the lake, that kind of stuff or whatever. So it wasn't like, I didn't have like dating relationships or anything like that or whatever. I had a girlfriend that I started seeing when I was 17, and she was a little bit younger, but. Uh, it was never anything super serious or anything like that, so I don't know. Let's see. I needed to get a GED, so I was able to get a GED. But in order to do so, I took a brief absence from the uh, vocational rehab class of the what do you call it? The I don't even know what I'm talking about. The graphic arts program. And when I after and of course it really took me no time at all. I went and I took it, uh, and it was supposed to be mathematic. Did I need math? The teacher said, you were so close in just needing like you were just like one question away. So why don't we just go ahead and redo the test? And you'll probably get it, and you won't have to go through this math course or whatever. And I'm like, whatever. And of course, I did get the GED the second time out. So I have a general equivalency diploma to start with. I went on later on and got other education. That's not the limit of my adult education. Um, but in doing that, um, then it wasn't the second. It was the first time I took the GED, but I took I don't know, an aptitude like an ASVAB or something like that to I don't know. It's like I had to take a pre-course for like a practice test for the GED, and that's the one that I had to take the second time to see if I could qualify to take the GED. So the practice test, I was one away on the math, but it was more extreme and everything. And then of course, today I don't know. I wouldn't be able to go straight out and take it and pass it without taking some courses because they increased the uh, requirements, I think. But math was never my strong suit. But anyway, when I went back and I didn't have to, like, I took some time off, but didn't really have to do anything. But when it was time for me to go back to the vocational rehab, uh, not vocational rehab, but I've done that too. Vocational technical education for the graphic arts. I forget the guy's name, but I was in his office and he looked at me and he's like, your heart's really not in this. And I'm like 17. My heart is not in anything at 17. I was having such difficulty in my school life, in my high school life, that I really didn't even have like an extracurricular anything. That wasn't a possibility. We just didn't have money, for one thing, for any sort of extracurricular uh, participation. Uh, there just wasn't that, and if we did, we were most of the time a one car family, and then later on became a two-car family. So, but it was like, yeah, at the time it was like, no, there wasn't getting people around after school for after school things or clubs or whatever. There wasn't that, it wasn't, um, that wasn't going to be possible. Uh, I did get to do some martial arts during the week, and I loved that. I did really, really well with that. But even then, my aunt gave me a ride because my cousin also took martial arts, and she would come get me and everything like that. So I'd go with him. But it started out, just kind of like basically somebody knew somebody that knew somebody that knew the instructor, and a lot of what happened was my tuition being paid from my dad doing like some extra jobs like in maintenance or something for the building that the dojo that was in or something like that. It was lot of a lot of considerations in trade and everything. But yeah, that was something that I started maybe when I was 13. Maybe I just turned 14. I don't know, but I think maybe I was 13 when I went to my first. And I did that all the way until I was 17. So this 17 was a big thing for me. Like, just my whole, like, everything was changing around that time. I was just really, I don't know what the hell happens. I think it's just one of those things that, I'd been like, I don't know. Something was happening to everything, whatever. By this point, I joined they'd come to visit me, a recruiter. They'll tell you anything, by the way, if they want you to join the military. They will tell you anything. You are a genius. Look at these scores. I have people, college graduates, that don't score to this level, and I'm like, you do understand I'm a 17-year-old who's a high school dropout, whose letters are like F's and D's all the way across the board. It's like, this is not, so I'm not your genius. But I mean, I don't know, I kind of fell for the song and dance and this or whatever, and they signed me up, and I'm such a genius that I signed up for the Louisiana National Guard, to go all the way to North Carolina to learn how to do oil, which I could have done here. I'm in Northwest Louisiana. I didn't have to go anywhere to learn how to do oil. I could have just went to any place and said, "Hey, train me on how to move oil through a pipe." I mean, but like, God, I'm not. I'm not a genius, but I don't have a physical aptitude for like things. I barely have any tools around the house now because I wouldn't know what to do with them. I don't know. Uh, that didn't really work out. I tried to do the military for as long as I could, which was not very long. Uh, it's just, I don't know. I think I there was just a lot going on. Uh, I had an awareness that I had an attraction uh, that I was gay, but at this time you couldn't be gay in the military, and it's not like I was afraid of people finding out that I was gay or anything. At this point, it was more like I know that I can't go through my entire career uh, pretending to not be gay. I knew that my goal once I really knew this was a thing about me, that I was, and it was like it's there. You know what I mean? It's gay, 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 like sing song, gay, 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 um, like this. Then what I did was I just realized, well, uh, the military's not right for me. I did not leave the military playing the gay card. If there was a way I could have worked it out, could have stayed or whatever, I would have. But there were a lot of other reasons. I mean, I just wasn't like this is moving oil through a pipe. This is, my thing was like, who's getting the oil? What's going on? If we're going to the Middle East, and I know politics and everything like that, and who's getting the oil? What am I doing? What this is America taking the oil, or is it private companies taking it? What's going on? And I would, and it's like we weren't allowed to ask questions. Really, it was a you know whatever. Who cared? Like I go around and fucking move oil and drag all. Shouldn't I uh, be getting wealthy? I was more, I mean, so I don't know. Like if this were in Louisiana and I had a little piece of land and there were oil on it, and whatever. I don't know. I don't know how this works, but oil scum is what we call people in oil around here. Oil scum, they have money, And this was no. I'm gonna do this. I can go back to whatever. So anyway, that did not work out. And then, at the end of 1990, going into 91, I decided to try cosmetology, and I found out that I really had an aptitude for that. It was artistic. It took a minute. It took as a male, gay, straight, whatever. I mean, you go into a female environment, almost all female environment. That is, there's a private sorority to this that most men do not get a privy to, and it is a essentially you don't tell. There are conversations that women have in women's spaces that don't really, especially in the early 1990s. It may be different now, but I don't know, you just didn't have conversations like about that. It really, and so had to learn, and I'm glad for that, because I always thought that I was respectful of women, but I had a brand new appreciation getting to peek behind the curtain in working in salons and working in firstly schools where women went, and talking about the things that they talked about, and female concerns or whatever. So it was kind of like, wow, I'm kind of getting a little bit of an education here. Now, I was raised with a mother and a sister, but when it came time to talking about those things, they talked about it to themselves or didn't talk about it at all. I don't know. I'm not, I the sexual education we got in middle school was a joke. It was definitely not an education. It was like anything that any 5 or 6 year old kid would know. It was like, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, it was and it wasn't just about that. It was just like the female psychology of how women kind of get together and talk, and just kind of in that safe female space. And I'm actually kind of neat. There was just me and a couple of other guys, and it was good that it was fun that we could be there because we got to see something different. But this was after I'd already been in the military and come back, and it's like I think when I started, my head was basically still shaved into a very low high and tight or something like that. I don't know. Um, but I was beginning to learn about myself other than uh, just basic problems. That my mental problems, my emotions were starting to. There was something off, and there was something wrong, uh, and it had nothing to do with me being gay. It had everything to do with the fact that I wasn't right, you know. Um, the way I processed, the way I thought about things. I don't want to get too deep with it, but my symptoms were starting to really emerge, and that had a lot to do with me not remaining in the military. Other than the fact that I really wouldn't have wanted to anyway, it wasn't going to work for me. So that I don't mind that so much. Um, but these things that were happening, they were affecting my thinking, the way that I thought. They were affecting my decision making. I'm not making excuses, but this is just a period of my life where things just went really, really bad. But also, I'll tell you something else. It was during this time that I don't mind that I was going to miss out on a lot of cultural zeitgeist. I didn't know the word back then, but what was trending, because uh, the last of the hair metal was phasing out, and what was going to come in music and what was going to come on TV and at the movies and everything over the next few years was going to totally suck. So, um, yeah. Um, I'm sorry. I know this is like, so, y'all, let me tell you what's about to happen. I don't care. At this point, uh, I had some legal issues that I had to take care of, and I did not do such a great job of taking care of them as I did so much as running away from them. I was much better at that for a while anyway, until it got whatever. But I pretty much like just, yeah, went underground for a while. But let me tell you that culturally, whatever was happening between 1991 and the oh almost until 1993, I don't know anything other than, God, this sucks. Everything. Oh my God. There wasn't a single thing that interested me that was going on. And that is when I really discovered, uh, looking back into the past for things that interested me, classic rock and roll, as opposed to whatever the hell was going on in, I don't know. It's, grunge was starting to come in, but I don't really consider grunge that different than hair metal. I think it was just kind of like the next evolution or something like that. Um, Nirvana was great with Smells Like Teen Spirit. Everything after that did not sound like rock and roll. It sounded depressed and whiny, and it's like, at least Pearl Jam, and they did have their slow thing, but at least Pearl Jam had like just a, you know an edge, and so I could kind of get with that. But what happened? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But there was something. I was coming home right around the time that grunge was coming in. So that I didn't miss the grunge thing. But there was something that happened between hair metal and grunge. Like there was a transition period. I don't know what happened. I think for a while there was like some uh was there a street influence of R&B or something that I don't know. It was every it was like I don't know. I wish I could tell you music style whatever. I don't it was just I was looking backwards by that point because I felt that uh, there was so much more stuff. There was so much more interesting things that happened. There were so many more interesting things that happened than what was happening in that particular. I don't know. Like I found an appreciation for soul music, for R&B. Uh, I found an appreciation for. I know club music became a thing, but not. I don't know. As if like there was a whole period in which everything about me was kind of a beige. Everything, the every emotion. I think of things in terms of color. People's names they have color. Uh, I can see words in color. I can see clips and phrases. I can see emotions in color, um, all that. And so, but during this period, and it probably had a lot to do with the fact that I was just, uh, uh, empty. I was a spiritually empty person at this point, trying to figure out what without knowing, and I was not at this point. I was 19 years old, just not knowing anything, and so it's like, wow. Uh, so, just a very beigey. Uh, yeah, I must have turned 17 in '89. I don't know, from like 19 until like 21. That's just all like um, I don't know. I don't know what that color is. It's it's maybe like a stained and colored uh, parchment, old nothing. It's just a nothing, and that's what that was. That's what that was. And so yeah, I and then even when I came home from all that, I still for a minute, not a minute, but for a few months, I like, how do I find my bearings? I know what I have to do. I know I have these restitutions and issues and problems, but I still don't know anything about what to do. So I don't know. That is the period that is about to come back in style. So, how I love the '80s. '80s, right? I did not like 1990 through, well, until maybe partway through 1993. Because I that's a whole period that I was um, almost entirely absent from. And when I say that, that's not a metaphor. I really don't feel like uh, I was here for a lot of that. I mean, I was there, and you know, but yeah, I don't know. I was not this that you see before you. I was not me. I was something else. I don't know. Oof, it was not a happy time, that young adulthood. And it might just be, this is, psychologically, the mind of the adult male does not mature really until the mid 20s, 23, 24 years old or something like that. So I think that decision making, such as, just really going around and recruiting young men to join the military to fight wars that really don't have anything to do with them. Yeah, because they don't know. Even if it does, we don't know. We don't have that education. We don't know why. That like I had no idea why I was asked to join the military. I don't think that's something that should happen. Uh, really until year 21 or after. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know that other countries will put weapons in the hands of children and make them go out and fight wars, but I think that I hope that we find our way to a place that we don't have to do that. And I hope that we find ourselves to a collective understanding where we understand that biology has a lot to do with um, emotional development. I think it's a good thing that today gay people can serve in the military openly. It might have been a different. It might have been a little bit different, but still, I would have been like, what? Like it would. I don't know. It was just so much. It was what the point is. I just kind of went through my entire history in a very general way, uh, of from 17 until like 21, and wow, and then as my memory, like as I try to place it on a timeline, everything that happened, everything that I know that happened, it must have happened extremely fast in order to be able to fit into the timeline in which I kind of wake up and realize that, because there was a while there, it was like, wow, I'm just gone, like I was there, but I was numb through all of it, and I wasn't me, but even though I was, it was so weird. There was a whole, and it was like, that's what going through life was like. Also, I drank a lot and did a lot of dope. Not for the purpose of, gee, I'm going to get fucked up. It's just I thought that's what people did. And so that has a lot to do with the vacancy that I felt, And that started to change for me, I want to say around 1998. I don't know. I was maybe a little before that. I think that I really got very involved with theater. Uh, it wasn't even community theater. It was me. It was a family that the guy Thomas was a great writer. I basically worshipped his writing talent. I don't know if he even knew how talented he was, uh, but yeah. So I devoted myself to that theater, everything. Like I would have, like, yeah. So that's kind of cool. It would have been an all for nothing thing. We had this. Uh, it was kind of they were the Gaslight Players, and then kind of an offshoot of the Gaslight Players. People kind of broke away and started this thing called Wandering Minstrels, and I've talked about it. And I wasn't there when they chose the name Wandering Minstrel, and I would not have. I didn't know what minstrel shows were, uh, but even that started. Minstrels were in medieval and pre-Renaissance, going into Renaissance. they were traveling actors, players, and it wasn't until uh, minstrel shows in the Americas where they became such, like they would do like you know blackface and misappropriate cultures, and just it didn't become, so it get the word minstrel takes on a different connotation than what my uh, theater group had intended. But today I would be like, no, we've got to call ourselves something like traversing troubadours or something like that. We've got to do something other than, because of the yeah I would with any sort of, like, today, this is not an awareness that I wouldn't even do it. uh, I don't care. You couldn't get me to do something that used the term minstrel in its business model. I wouldn't do it. Just because I'm aware of sensitivity. You know, um, but yeah, but we did all original work and everything, and so in this, it's kind of like Shakespeare's As You Like It, where people really can only be themselves and their most honest selves when they're wearing masks. I really found out who I was as a person only from those few years where I gave myself over to being a performer, and that was, uh, that was kind of cool. Okay. Wow. Why am I do not. This whole thing that's about to happen, God, do I want it to be over quick. Whatever happens, whatever you're bringing back for the 1990s, uh, for the first part of it, God, please, uh, don't let it be as bland as it was. Because there was nothing interesting going on. Meta. What did you guys? What was the big TV thing? I'm sorry, but the Fresh Prince of Bel Air and the Nanny are the two things that stood out for this time. I don't know what was. I don't know. Maybe I've got them wrong. Maybe that's not what. I don't know. There was a whole, like, it wasn't gentrifying of neighborhoods. It was gentrification of uh, culture that was happening, and everything was so mass produced. CNC Music Factory, where you have you know greats such as Martha Washington uh, not being allowed to be in her own music video, but they hire a model, give her a name, and give her credit for singing. And same thing that happened, the whole Milli Vanilli thing, the big corporate everything. It was like, ugh, models hired to stand in for performers because image was more important than art. And it was like that in the early 1990s. God, it was awful. So uh, please do take everything that's about to happen uh, in stride. And yeah, okay. There's my therapy that I've put out here, and ugh, can we go back to the 80s, please?